POMIs are people who are physically out but mentally in. And we don't really give them much time, and we don't really think about how these people are suffering. Why? Because they're indoctrinated. They left the organization. Most of the time, they were kicked out. They didn't leave on their own. And the indoctrination is still there. They're trying to go back in, but for whatever reason, something is holding them back. And they're suffering. They're suffering maybe the cognitive dissonance. They're suffering this tearing of one and pull of the other. And it's really tough for them. Not only it's for them, but also those around them. They have maybe relationships, and people in those relationships, they know that something's wrong. This is not natural, that they really feel like these people need help, psychological help, but they refuse to go to any psychiatrist. They refuse to acknowledge that they have any problem. They're just saying, I'll figure it out. Don't worry, just give me time. I will figure it out. And the time goes by and they don't figure it out. And it gets worse. Sometimes these people get into real big depression. There were extreme cases when they took their own life, to the point where one lady actually shot her whole family and then shot herself. She was a POMI, and she believed that the only way to paradise was through death, and they wouldn't qualify to survive Armageddon if Armageddon came right now. So the only way to save her children and her family, and maybe herself, was to actually kill them. It happened in Detroit a few years ago. A really horrifying story, but it proves to what extent the indoctrination can have an impact on people's minds. So I want to talk to you about how to help a POMI, somebody who is physically out, most likely was kicked out, and they're mentally in. Well, there's a couple of things that every POMI is struggling with. Chances are is guilt and shame. Guilt and shame. Why? Because they've done something against the rules. They broke certain rules, and maybe they're still breaking them. And they feel like, oh, I cannot go back until I straighten this out. Some people picked up smoking. Some people actually got a problem with drugs or alcohol. And truthfully, a lot of them started a relationship, an intimate relationship. They had sex outside of marriage, and that caused them to get kicked out of the organization. Now, let's talk about a few things. Why would these people want to go back in? See, Jehovah's Witnesses or any organization, any high controlling organization, would give something to people that would really align them with their values, to the point where these people are willing to do anything for the organization, sacrifice anything personal for the organization, including their own life or the life of their own children. What are those things? Obviously, there's more than I'm going to mention, but I'm going to mention three things that are like a key to understanding why people are so attached to an organization like Jehovah's Witnesses. Number one is love. And I know some people will criticize me for, because like, oh no, there is no love there. There's all conditional and stuff. Yes, true. But at the same time, there is some love. They loved people in it. They loved the community. They felt connected with them. They felt like they have somewhere where they belong. And in this community, it gave them attention. It gave them time. It gave them somebody to interact with. Commonality brings people together. People like each other when they're like each other. And when you believe the same stuff like Jehovah's Witnesses, you feel connected with them. How many of you went to, I don't know, country where you don't speak the language, and then all of a sudden you see, oh, Jehovah's Witnesses there, and you're a Jehovah's Witness. You're like, look, brother and sister, this is my spiritual family. And then like, oh yeah, maybe you show them your blood card. It's like, I'm a brother, right? And you hug, and you're like, oh, wonderful. I belong to something greater. I belong to spiritual family. I have brothers and sisters all over the world. It's extraordinary. I know there was a lady in our congregation, okay, and she was an older person, and at her last years of her life, the congregation really took care of her. The sisters were bringing her groceries. We had a schedule of when we're going to shovel her driveway every time it snows, and we helped her quite a bit. And then later on, we were organizing meetings and service arrangement and phone witnessing in her place. People were taking her to the meetings or for shopping or for any social events. She had a great social life at the very end of her life. 300 people showed up for her funeral. At the same time, I see people in old age homes and they have family who shows up once a year for Christmas and they have nobody and nobody cares about them except maybe somebody who actually is assigned and paid to take care of them. Is being in a cult really that evil? Well, for some people, that is a better quality of life than the life without it. They have a community, they have those connections, and for as long as you believe and obey the rules, you will stay there and you will have a really good friendships. I had them, and I still love some of the people in there because they never hurt me. I mean, they're great people. So to say that there is no love among Jehovah's Witnesses, maybe you didn't experience it the way a lot of people do, but of course there is. Is it conditional? 100%. 100%. But which love is not conditional? Maybe a mother to a baby. But truthfully, you might think, oh, I love my husband, I love my wife. Well, if your spouse starts cheating on you, lying to you, and starts sleeping around, are you going to love them the same way? Or do you have some standards and rules of saying, you know what, I love you, but you go that route, my love will end? Well, we all have certain standards and we all have certain rules of what to how far we're going to accept somebody's behavior. But Jehovah's Witnesses set up their own rules, which we find unreasonable. And this is why we say, oh, their love is all conditional. Well, yes, it is, but it's just the conditions that we don't like. Because they will say, oh, I love you as long as you believe the same thing I do. And if you disagree with even 1%, then my love will be cut off. That's where we find it too much. That's where we find it too restrictive or too controlling. But it's definitely there. And a lot of people feel like, you know what, when I was a Jehovah's Witness, I felt that love. I felt that people cared about me. I had people that I could connect with. And then outside, maybe I have one. Maybe I don't have anybody. They never found a place where they could replace it. So it's much more difficult. But the problem is maybe they fell in love with somebody outside of the congregation. Maybe they were intimate with that person, and because of it, now they're disfellowshipped. And they're like, what do I do? I love the person that I'm with, but I love the organization at the same time. How do you choose love? You got love on one side and you got love on the other side. And no matter what you do, you feel pulled. You know that if you choose one, you're going to lose the other. And you might think, wow, in love is all about the inclusivity. Like, why can I have both? Well, some people do. Some people marry somebody who is not a witness, and then they return to the organization thinking, okay, I'm going to have the best of both worlds. It is possible. Some people have done it. But at the same time, these people are like, okay, I know even if I go back to the organization, it won't be the same because they will always see me as that person who left and slept with somebody who's outside of this world. I'm out of the organization who is in this world, and they will judge me. They will feel that judgment. So in order to feel truly authentic and pure in the congregation, they know they have to kind of separate themselves from this world, as they say, from the worldly people, in order to feel fully authentic in the organization. Otherwise, they will go in there, but they will feel the judgment. They will feel that people will have reservations towards them because you have somebody who is not a witness in your family. It does separate people, and that separation sometimes is worse than if you separate somebody altogether, because at least they're not in your face showing you that judgment, and you don't feel that judgment from them all the time. So it's really challenging, and I really feel for them because their heart is divided. They have a choice between, okay, if I go to the organization, do I have to give up the person that I truly love outside? It's not an easy choice. And Jehovah's Witnesses really make sure that you feel like you have to make that choice because you rather love God, which for them is an organization, or you love the world. You cannot serve two masters. You cannot serve the world. You cannot serve Jehovah. You have to choose. And they're causing people to feel like, oh, you know what? I'm on the right side of things. It's always black and white. There's only one road, narrow road to paradise. And if you're going through your life where it's all easy and nice and you make your choices, guess what? You're going to end up destroying your life. This is not an easy choice for them. And it was all programmed into their subconscious mind because love is something that we need. It's not something that we want. It's something we need. Without this, okay, you take baby and you don't give baby love, and the baby will die. People without love commit suicides. People without love get psychological problems. We all need to feel we're loved. And it's very unfair to feel that I have to choose who I can love and who can love me. It's incredibly difficult choice to make, almost impossible, because the loss of love is one of the most painful losses that we experience as humans. How do you choose? Very tough. The second thing that holds people in the organization more than anything else, okay, is safety. The feeling of safety. You are safe with us. You have a chance, of course, never a guarantee, of surviving Armageddon. And if you're outside in this world, you will die. I mean, there's countless examples of different pictures, articles, magazines, where they show how Jesus is returning on a white horse with a red cape, and he's going to destroy everybody who's not a witness, except those who, of course, serve him and obey. Now, we all want to survive. It's our subconscious mind is programmed into keeping us alive. Therefore, whatever we understand as a vehicle of surviving, we will choose that over death. Who will choose death over life? Very few. So we want to survive, knowing and believing that something is coming to kill us. We want to prepare and we want to make sure that we survive. They use this method very effectively. I mean, every religion out there uses this. They say, okay, if you don't obey, you're going to end up in hell, or you're going to end up as a cockroach if you get reincarnated. Whatever the beliefs are, there's always punishment for disobedience and there is reward for obedience. That's how religion controls people. And JWs are no different. They say, okay, you'll die at Armageddon if you disobey, and you'll be living in paradise forever if you stay with us. The clock is ticking. You know you have only so much of your life when your clock will stop. And the time that you're spending doing whatever it is that you're doing, you might feel this guilt that, oh, I should be preaching. I should be saving people's lives. I should be doing what I know it's right to do. And I'm just going through the motions. I'm focusing on myself. I'm selfish because I'm trying to build my life. And whatever I do for my own pleasure, but I'm not sacrificing my current life and my current time for the greater good of a future kingdom, God's kingdom. That guilt inside is there, and they feel it. And very often they feel it daily. So they can't even experience joy of life fully, because every time, even if they go on a great vacation, even if they spend an awesome time with their family, friends, loved ones, they have this guilt that, oh, you know what? I should be doing something else now. This is selfish. No matter what you're doing, you could become a doctor or a researcher who will find a cure for cancer for the whole humanity, and you give it to everybody for free. Inside, you're going to feel that you wasted your time because you only help people temporarily. You postponed their death. But if you focus on the spiritual things, which are for JWs religious things, then you could help people to survive Armageddon and live forever. So that is a more noble cause than helping people medically, even no matter what you come up. So that guilt is there, and it's programmed so deep that they don't verbalize it, they don't say it, but it's there because it was reminded to us over and over and over again at countless meetings. And it was programmed. Our brain gets programmed through repetition and highly emotional events. So now you see that Jehovah's Witnesses are going into the emotional state where not only they're repeating the same things over and over again, but they're also trying to play on people's emotions by creating the movies with slow motion and music that will move you emotionally, because they know that's how they could get you involved a lot more. Safety, feeling safe in the congregation and feeling unsafe in the world that they live in. That's it's what keep people in. And the third one, here's the third key thing that keeps people in the organization or wanting to return, and it's purpose. Purpose. See, when we were Jehovah's Witnesses, we had a very clear vision. We had this vision and the purpose of what we do, because we knew that what we do matters not only for us, but for everybody that we preach and the whole world. As a matter of fact, this purpose was so important that it didn't involve only people on earth, but also in heaven. It involved the whole sovereignty of Jehovah, all the angels, and all the humanity on the planet. Also included the people who died. So the purpose was so grandiose, so huge, so big that nothing else measures up to it. No matter what kind of a purpose you will find in life right now, it will never be as big as that one. They made it so huge that nothing else can come close to it. That vision was clear. And then we attached identity to it. Because if you tell people this is who you are, it's not something you do on the weekend. This is who you are as a person. Then all decisions are made that way. That vision, that purpose, that identity that they have attached to this one thing: serve God's kingdom, spread his word. That was a key. And it was the most powerful thing, because if you believe it, you'd be willing to do anything. It didn't matter whether they will ask you to dig a hole for the kingdom hall, clean the toilet, mow the lawn, wash the windows. People did it with a smile on their face. People who hate those chores. You take a guy at home and ask him to clean a bathroom or something. He doesn't like doing it. He will postpone, you procrastinate. But you ask him to do it at the kingdom hall, no problem. Why? Because he was attached to a greater purpose. So you see witnesses lining up for cleaning, for doing really tough work. I've seen women chipping bricks and concrete at the kingdom hall with jackhammers. I'm like, oh my gosh. And they don't pay them either. They volunteer for that kind of work. You ask a woman to chip bricks at home. Yeah, you ask women to chip concrete on a job site. When you pay them, they won't go. But you ask them to do it at a kingdom hall, and guess what? No problem. Why? Because they matter. Because you tell them, you do this, Jehovah is watching. And there's nothing more powerful than the feeling that we matter. That we matter to others, that we matter to a greater purpose than the one that we see around us. There's something that we do, no matter how small and how insignificant it might seem right now, but it's attached to a higher purpose. That drives people more than anything else. Well, you have those three: you got love, you got safety, and a purpose. And you give this to people on a silver platter like Jehovah's Witnesses did. And guess what happens? They are sealed. They're sealed. People are willing to give up anything for it. And especially because they don't find that replacement of those three anywhere else on any better level. As a matter of fact, there was also a vision that was shown to them. You leave, guess what? You're going to lose the love. You're going to lose all our protection. You're going to lose the purpose. Who are the people outside? Look how they are. They're just angry and resentful, and they're creating a whole bunch of lies about us and contents, but they are bitter. Their life is not better. They're bitter. How can you possibly leave this wonderful Jehovah's organization who is so loving, kind, and forgiving? For what? For what? What's outside this world except destruction? Satan got you. I mean, this kind of a conversations you could have with Jehovah's Witnesses back and forth, and it's very difficult for an average person to understand how these people are there. But believe me, we will violate our own rules and values if those three, the love, the safety, and the purpose, are met somewhere else. And it's countless examples of people who will do this. And you don't have to look far. Look at, let's say, extreme Muslims who are willing to kill and terrorize others for their beliefs. Now, you go and ask them why they do this, and they'll tell you all three things. They love their own people, okay? They feel safe, yes, because if they don't do this, if they don't kill the apostates, if they don't kill the people who are there in opposition, the apostates will spread. And if they spread, people will end up in hell. We are helping people and preventing them from going to hell, from eternal condemnation. It's crazy, but that's what they believe. They feel they are loving their neighbor. They feel that they're creating safe place, and they have a purpose much more powerful than anybody else that they can give them. And they're terrorists, but they have all three. And then you add the identity to it, that this is who they are and represent the higher purpose, and people are willing to do anything. And you might think, hey, you know what? Hey, those are terrorists, Jack. Come on. I would not support that kind of a behavior ever. I'm a loving and kind person. Jehovah's Witnesses would never even pick up a gun. They would never even pick up even for self-defense. They don't want to pick up a gun. They will never attack another country. They will never go to war. So why are you comparing, people who, let's say, flew airplane into a building and collapsed it, and they committed suicide and they killed 2,000 people by collapsing a building? These people are terrorists. But then you bring a story of Solomon, who committed suicide by destroying a building and killing 2,000 people, and all of a sudden the guy is a hero. As long as somebody else's guy, then he's a terrorist. If it's your guy, then it's okay. Let's go back to the subject. Once you understand that these three are the ones that pull people back in order for people to feel normal again, feel better, or not wanting to return to Jehovah's Witnesses, you have no choice but to help them see that all three can be accomplished outside of the organization, and it has to be greater than before. If it's not on the same level, they will go back. What do I mean by that? Let's go one by one. Love. See, Jehovah's Witnesses do experience love, as we mentioned before, conditionally. As long as you believe what I believe, I will help you. You are my brother and sister. You are my spiritual family. We feel this connection. Wonderful. However, they don't experience what is a love for a person who disagrees with them. That part is difficult, almost impossible for them to comprehend, because they were told you're either with us or you're against us. You could be a potential convert and then would love bomb you. Or if you leave or even show that you're questioning or disobeying, we have to be careful, treat you as somebody who's weak spiritually or dangerous, and we will shun you eventually. You got to show somebody who's like this that they can be authentic, they can be themselves, they can disagree with you, and you will still love them. As a matter of fact, that's where the true passion starts. That's where the true intimacy starts. You know what intimate relationship is? Of course you do. Physically, when we get intimate, what do? We take our clothes off. We show ourselves naked to the other person and we say, you know what? This is how I am. There is no shame. There is no guilt. This is who I am. And the person still loves us and desires us and accepts us for who we are and how we are. We don't walk around naked. We would feel ashamed to walk around naked in front of strangers. But when we feel this true connection with somebody else, we don't care about showing ourselves, because that's what intimacy is all about. Intimacy is about showing who we are as we are, knowing that will be safe place and we will still be loved. That part of intimacy and that kind of a connection is not known to Jehovah's Witnesses. because they have to pretend if they have any doubts, if they have any questions, if they don't understand certain beliefs, or they just put it on the shelf saying they know more than me, I'm just going to accept it because the channel of communication from God is there telling us what to do and what to believe. They're smarter than me, that they're the authority. Boom. I'm not as smart as these guys. I'm going to put it on the shelf. And they can't express any doubts. They can't express any different thoughts because they know the consequences would be dire. Now, here's your chance to show a true love to that person, saying, please be honest with me. Tell me everything. And when they say something that you completely disagree with, you're like, this is crazy. I'm like, show them love at that time more than at any other time. And guess what happens? The more they will see that you accept them and love them and care about them, regardless of the disagreements, regardless of how many things we say, no, I believe this and you believe that, they're going to feel that intimate connection when they can strip all the masks from them, show you who they truly are, and you're going to love them no matter what, despite the differences. That is the depth of love most JWs never experienced. And if you show them that, okay, they will be hooked on you because, like, okay, that is more precious than the love of the community that I received among JWs. Because sure, I had the community as a JW, but I couldn't be authentic. I couldn't be loved for who I really am. I was only loved who I had to become in order to be a good Jehovah's Witness. That is the difference. Make sure they feel it and understand that this is what they're going to get outside of the organization. Well, if they go back in, not a chance. Not a chance. They'll have to put on the mask. And every time they disagree with JWs, they will never be able to express it. The second one is safety. Now, that's a tough one because they so strongly believe that the end of the world is coming and the end of this whole system is coming. And the only way to survive is by being a good Jehovah's Witness in good standing. Then you have a chance. Now, to overcome that fear of Armageddon, that's another lesson for like an hour at least. But what I want to mention is that you have to make these people feel safe in love. Things that I just mentioned, that you have to allow them to feel authentic and express themselves no matter what. If they're not harming you, let them express their viewpoints and beliefs and points of view, even though they disagree with you, and they're going to feel safe with you expressing themselves because you're not going to reject them. At the same time, you could remind them, hey, you know what? This conversation that we just had and we disagreed, but we still love each other. You're not going to have that in the organization. You couldn't possibly have that. And they're going to start attaching feeling of uncertainty, and they're not going to feel safe in the organization because they're going to feel like they're going to walk on eggshells every time they make a mistake. Another problem. The reason why they don't want to go back sometimes because they experience a lot of pain when it comes to the judgment and the judicial committee. And they know if I go back, I'm still going to have to tiptoe around the elders and the congregation because if I do something wrong, if I sin again, I'm going to be kicked out and I have to go through the motions all over again. And it's tough. So more safety among the people who are not Jehovah's Witnesses because they will be able to be more authentic and they will be accepted and loved at the same time. Therefore, if they return, the safety is actually gone. Plus, time is extremely precious. Time is like the highest commodity that we have. And if they go back to the organization, they're going to have to give a lot of their life, a lot of their time into the organization. They will take it for no matter how much time you give them, it's never enough. And guess what? There's no extra brownie points for that. It's just there isn't. So it's very actually unsafe to go back into organization that will take everything and give you almost nothing in return. Countless people served their entire life as full-time ministers, as missionaries, circuit overseers, Bethelites. And after 10, 20, 30, 40 years, they get a handshake, thank you very much, goodbye. And they're left with nothing, no family, no children, no savings, no education, no place to live, nobody to rely on. Thank you for your service, bye-bye. That is super unsafe place to be. That is extremely risky. That people feel like their life has been stolen from them because they can't go back in time. There is no reset button. It's a dangerous place to be, not a safe place to be. And the third one, let's talk about third one, purpose. How do you change that? I mean, for crying out loud, Jehovah's Witnesses had this vision of enormous purpose in life. Then they saw this vision of, I'm going to have this beautiful house with the view of the mountains, and the lion will be playing with my children, and the cobra is going to be my pet. Whatever it is that you imagine, that's the kind of a vision that was given to us. And he said, all what you have to do to live there is follow the path that we give you. And when you follow the path we give you, and we give you the identity, you will eventually end up in paradise. Whatever you ever dreamed of will be fulfilled in paradise. Paradise was the key to whatever sacrifice that you would be willing to make. Don't worry, somebody's dying. Don't worry, they'll be resurrected. Your child needs blood, and you know what happens. Well, even if they die right now, Jehovah will remember them. Jehovah will resurrect them. You will see them again. That hope for paradise, that hope for resurrection, that hope for eternal life was so powerful that no matter the problem, you will all be fixed in paradise. Tell you what, you know why people are drawn towards witnesses so much, and then when they leave, they have psychological problems? Because when they were JWs, they mattered. The smallest things mattered. People were appreciated, even admired for the smallest things they have done. You go to the meeting, and guess what? There's a question. Yeah, I answered. I mean, you knew the question is going to be asked. You knew the answer. It was written for you. The guy actually read the whole thing again. You prepared at home. You underlined everything. And then you say exactly what they expect you to say from the watchtower, from the things that was written by the question that everybody knew. And then at the end of the meeting, people are like, oh, great comment, brother so-and-so. Great comment, sister so-and-so. You prepare a little 2 minutes, 5-minute talk, and everybody from the congregation admires you and is like, wow, that was so great. In the real world, they don't get it. They don't get it. They go to work, they get paid, but maybe people don't appreciate what they do. They just say thank you. If they do, say thank you, and that's it. The smallest things get overcome and overlooked. And they crave it. They crave it because they knew that, oh, I didn't have to do a lot. I just, as long as I did a little bit, people appreciated me, even admired. And I don't get that. And then we need it. We need it. We need to know that we matter to others, that what we do creates impact on other people's lives. So this is a key. See, if you don't know what it is and they can't verbalize what it is, why they're trying to go back in, is because nobody wants to admit that they were admired and appreciated somewhere else. And in a relationship they're not. Or even if they are, they're not appreciated as much. That is like, if you get this, okay, you will uncover the key why people are trying to go back in. Because to replace this, all what you have to do is show appreciation. That you might think this is a oversimplification of the problem. It's not. If you show enormous amount of appreciation, even admiration for that person and for what they do that matters. The smallest thing, you wash the dishes, great, thank you. Go give them a kiss and a hug. You vacuum, great job. Oh, that looks awesome. I feel much better in this space just because you vacuum. You show that because that's what they received in the congregation. They vacuum the kingdom halls. Like, oh, wonderful! Look at this kingdom; it's so beautiful. Each serve, Jehovah sees it. Thank you so much. This will prove to the rest of the world how clean of organization we are. We had that, and then we don't get it outside, and we crave it, and we miss it, and we can't put our finger on it. But that's exactly what it is. It's that appreciation and even admiration that we crave. And we want to go back because those are the values that we needed. Those are emotional states that we needed. In order to replace it, you got to replace it in your home first. Admire people for what they do. Show them that what they do matters. Show them that the smallest, even a text message, okay, matters to me because my life today is better because of what you're doing, because you exist, because of the things that you did, said, because of the conversations that we had, because of the wisdom that you gave me. You show them that those things matter to you and your life is better because of those things. All of a sudden, they're going to be like, oh, they're going to get hooked on you instead of getting hooked on the organization because we want this so much. I remember when I was building Kingdom Halls, and they actually assigned one brother to walk around the Kingdom Hall, right, during construction and show appreciation. That was his job description. That he did nothing else. He was an older gentleman. I don't think he could do much. But all what he did, he's walked around and he's like, oh, brother, Jack, you're doing such a fantastic job. I mean, Jehovah sees what you're doing. I mean, what you've built here, this will be a witness to everybody that it's passing by this Kingdom Hall. I mean, he made me feel so good about myself that I was constantly looking for another project to do. And when he didn't show up, I missed it. I'm like, where's Ed today? Like, oh, too bad he's not here today. Like, oh, Ed's not feeling, oh, say hi to him. I hope he comes next time. But inside, I was craving his commendation, him coming to me and saying praises. Because we all need that. It's an emotional need that we have. And believe me, very often we get this when we fall in love. We fall in love with somebody, and all what they do is admire us. They see all the good in us and they completely blinded to our faults. Completely. And we are too. We see this person as like they are the best in the world. They're my match, they're my soulmate. And then later on, you start discovering other things, you start discovering disagreements, and they're like, oh man, I come home. All what I hear is complaints. All what I hear is criticism. All what I hear is about how I didn't do this and I should have done this, and what I did, it was not good enough. And then one day, somebody else shows up. Somebody else at work shows up. Let's say a woman shows up at work and she says to the guy, oh, I think you'll be really good at this. Oh, wow, you did that? That's amazing. And he's like, whoa, that really impresses me. You'll be good at that. And with that kind of speech, guess what? The guy comes home, gets criticized by his wife for not showing up on time or bringing the wrong milk. It was supposed to be 3%, not 2. And then he goes to work and gets admired by this lady. This is how affairs happen. Because inside, we need this. We need this appreciation. We need to feel that we matter. We need to feel that somebody else's life is better because we are here. And when we hear criticism on one side and appreciation on the other, we will always choose the appreciation. So Jehovah's Witnesses were really good at appreciating their own members. And if somebody criticized them, cut them off immediately. They couldn't take it because they know. They know what happens if that thing spreads. So they call it gangrene, any kind of criticism. So anybody comes and criticizes the governing body or the organization, gets cut off automatically. But among them, they would appreciate their members. You want to help somebody wake up and steer away in a healthy way outside of this organization. Show them appreciation. Without a doubt, it will make a greater impact on their recovery from this than anything else. There is one more thing that I want to share with you that could really help somebody who, let's say, is physically out but mentally in. It also helps those who are PMI, who are physically in and mentally in. There's something called a meta program. Meta program is a fancy word basically for something that convinces us in our brain to do something. It's from neuro-linguistic programming. It's basically goes like this. Our brain experiences the outside world through our five senses. When we experience the outside world, we create a story based on whether the experience was painful or pleasurable. Our subconscious mind answers only one question. Is this pain or is it pleasure? If it's pain, we want to avoid it. If it's pleasure, we want to experience it. And every event goes through the filters in our brain, and we create a story, what things mean to us. And if the meaning is, oh, this is painful, we try to avoid it. Now, when it comes to Jehovah's Witnesses and joining or rejoining this religion, very often that step represents two things in your brain. One, it could be it's painful because I know I will lose some of my friends who are outside of the organization. Then I have to go through the process of being reinstated, which for most people is very humiliating, and then going through the guilt and shame and all that stuff. But there is also pleasure of regaining maybe contact with the loved ones, having purpose in life, and all the things that I mentioned. So there's pain and pleasure into both. Now, whatever is stronger, okay, you got two pains, and one pain is higher than the other, the higher pain will win. And then you're going to move away from pain a lot more often than gaining the pleasure. So you got to figure it out. What is it in their head that causes them to move away, at least temporarily, from Jehovah's Witnesses? So, two things. One is you can ask them, why didn't you join yet? Why didn't you rejoin? Very often the person would say, well, I get my life straight first. So they don't feel adequate. They don't feel like they can fit into their frames. There are certain things that they're doing, they're addicted to, or they love doing outside of this world that they know JWs will not tolerate. So there is that pull in them. At the same time, ask them, what is it that they're missing about Jehovah's Witnesses? What is it that they like about Jehovah's Witnesses? What is it that their favorite thing about Jehovah's Witnesses? What do they love about Jehovah's Witnesses? You ask those questions, you will see what's truly in their heart, what pulls them towards that organization. And then and only then you will start creating a map in your brain of saying, okay, if this is what they're missing, then this is what I have to help them create or find outside. So when I woke up and I helped my wife wake up, my wife decided to stay in, even though she no longer believed the doctrine. Like, why? And I realized because of her need for feeling loved, feeling like she has that purpose and she has the community that was higher on her values than being authentic. So I realized that I have to help her to create that kind of environment where she feels more loved, more accepted, more admired, even outside of the organization than inside. And I started bringing people home. I started connecting with people who were not Jehovah's Witnesses, whether it was from work or some Jehovah's Witnesses also woke up and walked away. And we started creating that kind of environment where she no longer needed that conditional love from Jehovah's Witnesses. She started feeling judged, or the kind of they were not clicking anymore. And then she had to tiptoe around them and pretend that she believes whatever they believe, and became more uncomfortable to be with witnesses than he was to be with non-witnesses. And one day that switched because it became more painful to be a witness among Jehovah's Witnesses. And more pleasurable to be with people who are not witnesses. And that shift happened, and then she walked away. And it's the same thing. We got to find out what are their needs, not yours, because what convinced you to leave, or what convinces you to not join, or whatever it was. It's not their values. It's not their beliefs. It's not what they it's not what they convinced about. Whatever reason that you chose is not their reason. You got to find out their reason. So you ask, what is it that you love about Jehovah's Witnesses? What's their favorite thing about Jehovah's Witnesses? And they'll tell you. What are you missing about them? And they'll tell you. And then you create a map of how you can replace it. And then safety, same thing, and the purpose, the same thing. You know, one more key is what convinces people of something. How do we form a conviction in our brain? How are we forming beliefs? And beliefs is nothing than the feeling of certainty about specific matter. That's what belief is. I believe, I know, I believe that something is true, even though I don't have evidence to back it up. That's called faith. When you believe that something is real, something is true, but you don't have evidence to back it up, that's faith. And that's what all religions are based on. There is no proof. You can't put it in a lab and find out if this room has a Holy Spirit. You can't. It's all based on faith. So when you go through this, you find out what convinces them that this is the truth. And you ask this first, okay? When you are in a conversation of whatever, maybe you want to buy a car, maybe you want to buy a shirt, whatever it is, you ask them this question: what convinces you that this is the best? What convinces you this is the best car to buy? What convinces you that this is the best shirt for you? What convinces you? This is the key word: convinces. What convinces you that this is the truth? And they'll share it with you. They'll tell you. Well, for me, it convinces me that they're using Jehovah's name. It convinces me because they're preaching like nobody else. It convinces me because I see all the prophecies are being fulfilled. It convinces me because I see the love among the Jehovah's Witnesses. Everybody has a different reason. If you don't find that reason, then you might be wasting your time trying to knock on the wrong tree. You got to find what is their core reason why they're in it, or why they want to return, what pulls them towards it. And it's different for you than it is for me. Find out what convinces them. Here's another good question to ask: how do you know that you have done a good job? How do you know that you have done a good job? Answer this for yourself. How do you know? There's something called internal or external frame of reference. Internal frame of reference goes like this: whatever convinces me that this is right, I go through my beliefs, my experience, my values first, and then I go after what other people think. That's an internal frame of reference. You first internally evaluate the situation, and what you believe about certain situation is more important than what other people believe. That's internal frame of reference. And people who have a very strong internal frame of reference, they could go into crowds, speak their mind freely on any topic, even if the entire crowd disagrees with them, condemns them, maybe even puts them into prison. They don't care. Like, this is what I believe. This is why I believe it. I don't care what you people think. And this is what is real for me. That's a very strong internal frame of reference. External frame of reference is a person who relies on other people's opinion more than themselves. So when they're in a crowd, they are adopting the crowd thinking. If most people believe that this is correct, therefore I must be wrong if I have a different opinion. I will go with the crowd. It's easier that way. And chances are I'm wrong, because if the 1,000 people are saying yes and I'm saying no, chances are there's something I don't see and I don't understand. They have a better understanding, better experience, plus they have better point of view. Therefore, if majority thinks this way, I will adopt the same way. That's an external frame of reference. And it's very important to understand whether the person you're talking to has a stronger internal frame of reference or external frame of reference. Majority of Jehovah's Witnesses had stronger external frame of reference because they follow the crowd, they follow the authority, they follow whatever the governing body said, they follow what the congregation said. And they were never able to develop internal frame of reference when they believed something different, and they never had the strength to express that they think something else. That's not always the case, but it's for majority of witnesses, that's where it is. So if you find out whether they create their convictions from internal sources or from external sources, then and only then you can start persuading process. And the way this works is, if somebody says, well, I know I've done a good job because a lot of people told me I did a good job. A lot of people, complimented me on what I have done. I received a lot of comments about what I have done. People liked what I did. That's how you know that this person has external frame of reference, because they're relying on other people's opinion to form their own belief. But somebody who has an internal frame of reference, they'll say, I know I've done a good job because I did my best, because what I did before is not as good as the thing that I did right now. They will evaluate things internally. What mattered for them was more important than what other people said. Of course, we have a combination of both, but one is usually stronger than the other. And it's very important to understand this. When you realize that this person has, let's say, external frame of reference, then if you want to convince them about something, you usually say words like, the majority thinks this way. Why do you think you're thinking different? There's a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses, they're questioning. A lot of them are leaving. Why do you think they're leaving? What is it that they know that you don't? Why there's so many people that don't want to return? Why there are so many people disfellowshipped? Why there are so many people willingly leaving the organization? Why is it even governing body members are leaving this organization? Why people from the highest positions are leaving this organization? And that causes them to think, oh, they know something I don't. They have some insight that maybe I have overlooked. And they're like, okay, what is it? And they're starting to be curious. But if they're surrounded only from the information from Jehovah's Witnesses, then in their mind, majority of witnesses believe this and accept this, and they cannot all be wrong, like 8 million people. That's an external frame of reference. So find out what it is, and truthfully, what you can do to help the person is caring. Like, if they don't feel that you care about them, you're gonna waste your time. I can tell you all the techniques of NLP or psychology that work on people's minds, but truthfully, if they don't feel that connection with you, if you don't feel that intimate connection with you, that who you are in their life is somebody who cares about their well-being, and you worry that they're going to do something that will hurt themselves without knowing. They have to feel it, not know it. Feel it. They have to feel that what you do, what you say, and you have their best interests at heart. Without this, don't even try. If you try to manipulate them into something, they will feel it right away. If they feel that you have wrong intent because you want to be right and you want to prove that they're wrong, and you read something and watch something on a YouTube or whatever, and then you're gonna prove that they're wrong and you're right, that will come across through your facial expressions, through your tone of voice, through your body language. They will feel your energy immediately, and they will always feel that, oh, you know what, this person is an endangerment to my faith, my connection with God, whatever it is. You have to align with them first. Align with them first through love, through safety, through purpose. You align with them by giving them compliments, at least 2 compliments at minimum. Things that you cherish about them, that you actually admire about witnesses, whatever it is. You admire the fact that they will not go to war. They're not going to pick up a machine gun and then come and kill you just because you're from another nation. Whatever it is that you actually respect witnesses for, you mention that first to show that you're not an enemy, that you're not blind and you're just finding the wrong. But you align with them, and then you start asking questions. You go like this together, so they feel that you're together. You align by giving them compliments, minimum 2, so that people feel that you're on their side. And then you start asking questions. What if what they're changing a lot of things in Jehovah's Witnesses right now? What do you think is going to be a next change? Wh- wh- Right? tiny little shift, 1 degree. And then eventually they're on a different destination. Because when you start asking those questions instead of telling them, is you're causing them to think. Then they're going to look for their own answers. Like, oh, what else going to change? I don't know what's going to change. I have no idea. But things will change because they're constantly changing things. And we know there will be a new light. And I'm wondering, what is it that they believe today that will be changed tomorrow? What is it that I think it's true? And then, a month from now would turn out not to be true. Like, what's going on? Every time there is change, there's a shift in the congregation. There is a shift in people, and people are leaving every time. And now with all those changes, people are starting to think, like, what's going on? This is completely a different religion than the one I was years ago. So use this to help people to think so they can start realizing that something is not right. That curiosity, you got to open their mind to the side, that side of wonder. What if? It's a great question to open somebody's mind. Don't tell them what's wrong. Even as a witness, when we're trained to go door to door, you didn't go door to door telling people what's wrong with the Catholic Church and point out to the pedophile cases and point out to how they're, you mismanaging their money, and point out to they have cathedrals with gold and shingles, and as people are starving in Africa. Don't point those things out, because people will shut the door and they will never want to talk to you again. You go to people's doors and you compliment them on the garden. You tell them how wonderful they have their kids in the house that looks beautiful, and everything looks so good. Wouldn't you like to have more of a beautiful place to live? Look at this picture. You align with people first. They know it. Without this, then people will start questioning your intent. You have to have people's best interests at heart. Remember that. Because without it, you're wasting your time. Hopefully that helped. Hopefully that you learned something from it. Please, please, please don't be intimidated by the fact that you see me on YouTube. If you want to reach out to me, please reach out. Go to feartofreedom.ca. You can reach out to me anytime. If you need more help, I'll be more than happy to help. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.